Hello everyone, my name is Salar and you are watching Smart Code. So another interesting student tutorial on JavaScript. What we are gonna do, we will program Rock Paper Scissor. You play with the computer and we make choice by clicking on the images Rock, Paper and Scissor. And here you will see if you win or lose against the computer. And so right here you will see the game starts. And here we have a reset button which resets the game by reloading the entire HTML document. So we will start with HTML, then write CSS, and finally we will program in JavaScript. Let's now jump into the code and start the development. In my working directory, I have index.html and 3 different folders. In the style folder, I have CSS file. In the app folder, I have .js file. And in the image folder, I put images, right? And in the HTML, I have already linked CSS and JavaScript file. So let's first give our application a structure by writing HTML. Take a wrapper for the entire application. Let's call it RSP wrapper. Let's now define the title. And after the program title, we have user info. And after the user info, we will insert images and take a image container first because we are gonna apply flex to arrange all the images in a row. Now I will take a single div for each image and insert an image into it. So this is how image container would look like. And one thing is worth noticing here, and that is ID. Every image tag has an ID defining the image, right? For example, for the rock image, the ID is rock. For the paper, ID is paper. And for the scissor, ID is scissor. And you will see in the JavaScript, when you click on the images, we will be fetching respective IDs, right? And now the next section in our application is game stats. And so the second last section in our application is the result area. And now finally, we will code the button. Right, so our content structure is now ready. And so it will look in the browser at this stage. Let's now apply some CSS and change the look of our page. In the style sheet, I will first import a Google font. And the name of the font is Bubblegum Sense. It's a comic font and it looks good in game-like application. And you can also see Google Font APIs and font face tutorials on my channel to learn more about the fonts in CSS. So you will first open the Google Font website and the link is provided in the description. And here we will search for the font and the name is Bubblegum Sense. So here we have font. So let's click on the font. And here you will see select this style option. So click on it. And now the style is selected. And in the selected font window, you will see the font can be added using two different options. A link tag or import directive. Import directive is faster than link tag. So we will use import directive. So we need this import directive ready to use code. So just copy it And here you can also see how to specify this font in the font family property, right? And so we will paste import directive at the top of the CSS file. In the universal selector, set box sizing to border box and reset padding and margin. We can also apply the font we downloaded from the Google. And so now we will start styling our application from top to bottom. We target the application wrapper first and we give it a width, background color and put the entire wrapper to the center of the page. Right, so here you see the whole picture. Our wrapper is in the center of the page. And so now we will center align all the elements inside the wrapper using CSS flex. So stay inside the wrapper and apply flex. And so you see all the items inside the wrapper are center aligned. And we will now target the game title and fix its looks. And so now we will style this user info, a little paragraph here. And so now we comes to the picture and we will arrange them in a row just by applying flex. Right, so our images are now rightly aligned in a row. Let's now target all the images and give them rounded corners. Right, so our images have rounded corners. And now we are going to style game stats. So now the second last thing that we're going to program is this result paragraph. Just increase the font size to 2em. And in the last, we will style the reset button. Here is our final application layout. It looks good, but not extraordinary. If you've been following my JavaScript tutorials, then you know we put focus on JavaScript. You can improve the CSS and can have whatever application layout you want. So I left this part to you. Let's now move on and write some interesting JavaScript. In the JavaScript, getting the user input is interesting and bit challenging. Look at the application interface. User will provide input by performing click on image elements. So the first step that we're going to program in JavaScript is quite obvious. We will get these three image elements in the JavaScript. And once we have them in the JavaScript, then we are going to try to find out on which image element a click is performed, right? So if we succeed in finding the image element on which click event is performed, then we can easily read its ID attribute. And this is what we need. ID values are actually user input, right? So it looks interesting and challenging, but the challenge is not so difficult. And you will see in a couple of minutes. We will program the whole scenario step by step. So we will start with getting all the image tags in the JavaScript using query selector all method. and at the same time we can create two variables for the game stats. Right, so we now have necessary variables in the program. Let's now put focus on this variable. This variable is holding a reference of three different image elements, and it is called a node list. So it is actually a list of HTML nodes. And in other words, you may call it an array of HTML elements. And we can have better understanding what we have inside this variable if we print it out in the console. And here you see what I said earlier. It's a list, a node list, and contains all the image elements. Image element with rock ID, with paper, and with scissor, right? And the node list is just like an array. And here you see the index values. Our first image tag with ID rock is at index 0. The second one is at index 1. And the last one is at index 2. Right, so I hope it's now loud and clear. And so now we will loop through the node list and try to find out on which image element a click is performed. I hope you're not scared with this code. We are looping through all the image tags that we have in the node list, and inside the loop we are looking for the element a click is performed, right? And if the click event is detected, then we are calling immediately an anonymous function. Now the anonymous function is passed an argument that you see right here, and this argument is called event object. So this argument is an object to that event, and this argument has so much information about the click event. It has many properties that we can use to get that information, and the property that we are going to use here is called target. And the target property of event object gonna give us the HTML element on which click event is performed. So let's see what do we get if I console it out. If I click on the rock image, then you will see the target property gives us the entire image element. And if I make a click on the paper, then you will see the element is inside the JavaScript. But we are not interested of entire image element. We only want the ID values. So in the JavaScript, together with target, we can call ID property. And now we will just get the ID value of the image we are clicking on. And here you see now, right? So we are getting user input now in the program. And you've seen the twisting logic behind the scene. Now, after the user input, we will program for computer. We will let the computer to choose an option randomly. So we will write a function, and that function gonna return a choice made by the computer. Let's call the function getComputerChoice. And now we are going to return a string based on the random choices. Right, so let's call this getComputerChoice function here to see if we are getting the right result. Now check in the console. And so you see in the console, it's wonderful, right? So now we have both the inputs in the program, and we can define rock, paper, scissor logic. So let's go back to the JavaScript and finalize this application. So we don't need console log any longer, and we are gonna save the result into the variables. right? So the variable user is for user option and variable computer is for computer option. So as soon as we get user and computer option in the program, we will process them according to the rock, paper, scissors rules, and we will do it in a separate function, and we pass these two variables to it. Right, so let's call a function here. I call it decide winner, and inside the function, I will pass both the choices. And down here, we will define the entire function. And in this function, we will first get this paragraph, right? We need it to show the result. And now we will code the game rules. Rules are simple. Rock wins against scissors, scissors wins against paper, and paper wins against rock, right? So let's first check for the tie. Right, so after the tie, we will check for these three rules one by one. So let's do that. Right, so now we have tested all the possible game conditions, and in the last, we will publish our stats variables, user win and computer win. And we will publish them in the paragraphs we have already coded in the HTML. Here, a user stat paragraph for user and computer stats paragraph for computer. Right, so just inside the boundary of our decide winner function, we will access stat elements and assign the results. Right, so our application is ready, and now we are going to check it into the browser. It's great, right? Our project is successful, and I hope there is no error in the application. As you can see, the console is empty. Now, one last development in the application is to program this reset button. And here I will use another approach. I won't reset all the variables manually. It would rather be a page reload, as we are not using browser local storage in our application, and that means whenever you reload your application, it will automatically be reset. For example, if I reload here, and here you see the reset and default values. So let's program the reload option, and then our application is done. And that's it. Our application is finalized. So this is how you can program a Rock Paper Scissor application. And I hope you like this tutorial and learn important dumb features. You can also download the source code from the link provided in the description. I will see you again in some other interesting tutorials. Until then, have a nice day and thanks for watching.